welcome back to another devlog. This is gonna be number 54, I believe. Um, all right, starting off this Monday, I was trying to get the build done, but I ran into some issues. And I wasn't able to get the build completely taken care of. I'll have to. I haven't really come up with a solution for building, but since my last finishing up the level 1, I've added a lot more assets, and it has to compile a lot more shaders. So doing a build, if you just did it straight through, would take you like, I think like at least 2 days. The good news is I believe it's cached, so what I can do is kind of like when I have computer CPU time open, I can actually do computation overnight, and then I probably like do keep on top of that every weekend just to make sure that most of my shaders are cached. I imagine this only happens when you're adding more assets and shaders and stuff, and I don't really know if there's any way around that, so it's just CPU work I have to do. But I have to get the an actual a build, a level 1 build that is not optimized. I'll do an optimized build later when I do all the mesh baking and stuff later, but right now I just want to make sure I can run through the level in a build. But it's going to take some time to do. So I'm going to do that on the side. So I was able to get crouch working pretty good. I did crouch before I refactored the model here, but it's looking pretty good now with the new model here. So I decided to work on 180 functionality. That was my kind of project for the week. And 180 functionality, I mean like quick turn. So pretty much, how do you do something like this? You're in the direction, and then you instead of just like you normally do, it just turns. It does. This is like a little bit of a touch of kind of like a little nice touch to it. So how do you do that? So and then my for this epic is like I want to work on the character. Yeah. So my whole thing was okay. We did a character version 2, and that's pretty good. But let's take it the rest of the way. Let's do a character version 3. Everything we want to fix on the second version, and we're gonna be adding a lot of character stuff, right? So we're talking about crouching, crouch walk, supporting that. We're talking about polishing up the animation like that, and then what's more is the actual dodging animations, like when you hit jump or dodge. So depending on what state you're in, if you're aiming and stuff, there's gonna be different dodge animations. So this is just the beginning. So I was kind of planning out like, okay, this is the big chunk of work I'm gonna be working on this week and the following weeks. This is the epic. I want to do, kind of like side flips, back flips, whatever the heck, kind of like, kind of Matrix-y kind of thing, I guess. I don't know. But anyways, I was thinking about doing that, and I was trying to figure out, okay, how do I get some animations? So it's kind of like Monday was project planning. Like, how do I get some new animations? I was looking through my animations. Like, I don't have any good, quick turn animation. I had a quick turn animation, but I was really looking for some nice jumping animations like this, and I came across one. It's like the only one in the asset store where you could actually, it's like a free runner one, but it has some cool like back flips and side flips and front rolls, front flips, everything you could ever want or need when you're talking about like acrobatic kind of stuff. So, and that's like the closest thing. I couldn't find anything else on the App Store that would offer any sort, or on the Asset Store that would offer any sort of what I was looking for. So I finally found what I was looking for. It has a lot of good stuff in there. So I'll be employing those animations. I considered AI, Unity AI to create these animations, but that really did not, that tool is just not up to scratch just yet. Plus you have to pay for it. So I didn't want to buy any more Unity packages because, you know, I'm trying to tight on money, but I think this, you know, this package, and I also picked up the long-awaited dual pistol animation package. So, you know, I spent a couple bucks, but I finally got, we're going to be really tightening up our whole animation controller, you know, with IK. We're gonna be really gonna be working on the character controller version 3 for this next leg. So I was looking at Mixamo too as an alternate solution, but Mixamo, it offers some free ones, but none of the animations really kind of they're free, but there's none of the variety there is not really exactly what I'm looking for. Like, you couldn't do an animation like this. There wasn't an animation like a side flip like this at all. I mean, there's a couple backflips, but you would really have to go into Blender and do a lot of work to really kind of adapt it to what you want. So, but this package that I bought, it has a lot of stuff that that I think that I want to use right out of the box with minimal work to customize it. I couldn't find a skip hop strafe animation anywhere, and I'm not really up. It's kind of one of those things, like I'm not really up for doing a custom animation just for that. I'm kind of seeing these kind of letting ideas go that really don't bring a lot to the table, and take a lot to do. So it's just like those kind of, you know, those kind of ideas, they kind of sink to the bottom. They're like the opposite of the good ideas. They take a long time to implement, and they don't really bring a lot of value. So no skip hop strafing when you're aiming and shooting, at least not for now. I kind of let that one go. And I can't, because I just can't find anything, like, as far as animations go for that. And I'm not going to take the time to do a custom animation for that. So anytime soon. So I decided to start putting work into version 3 of the character and starting from the beginning again, and kind of getting into Blender and kind of taking my new packages. I had what did I have from my they provided character models for the other packages that I can actually borrow from. So instead of my old jacket, doing it from scratch, because I'm kind of an amateur modeler, I took elements from what they had from these other models, and I kind of copied them over, shifted them over, made sure they had their proper materials, and did a lot of work in Blender to kind of really rework the coat, because I wasn't liking the original coat. I think I should bring it up here somewhere. I have yeah, some legacy stuff here. You can kind of see the old coat, and it's, you know, it's not really great. It works, but it's not really ideal. The pixel count, it's not optimized, and this is just, so this model had a nice little jacket that I was able to it's missing now, but I was able to take the her jacket, copy it over, and modify it slightly just so I could bring it down into more of like a trench, like a longer hem, longer seam, just like, and see, this is the original jacket here, and this is the modified bit right here. Just extruded it out. So, and then I think adding these belts and holsters and stuff add a real nice touch. So But it was a bunch of work, and I added some front hair here to kind of give it a different hairstyle instead of. I just borrowed this hair over here instead of, you know, like the no bangs look. Sunglasses, a lot of different things here. So got it all kind of reworked, did a bunch of work in Blender over the next couple days. And what I did, I was going once I got this all, I tried to start getting this back into Unity, and I was having a bit of a trouble exporting. There's some missing materials, but the real pain comes from when you bring it back into Unity. You kind of have to follow a process of reconstruction. So yeah, it's like the good news is like I finally got a good looking character model that I use for the final production. The bad news is like if you change the underlying mess, you've pretty much broken everything about, it's like a foundation. So now I have to, and every time I want to test, I kind of have to. So the previous character controller, I have to scrap all the work that I done with IK, so everything I built on top of it, I now have to reconstruct. So I'm making a checklist, in case I need to do it again, because this is probably the third time I've had to reconstruct the character controller. Pretty much put all the features back in place, and we're talking about, one of the big pieces, if you change the underlying meshes, then you have to kind of go and rebuild the actual stealth meshes. And that means baking in the skin mesh render just like you did before. And everything else that comes along with it, I was able to get the basics working, like the Magica cloth, after some trial and error, and just other things. But I didn't completely fix it right now. I just wanted to get the basics working so I could implement new features and functionality, like you've seen with the jumping around here. So later though, I'll have to fix the shield, and I'll have to fix the stealth, and I'll have to fix the IK. I had to fix the IK anyway for the new guns, but we're pretty much starting from the foundation now and adding new features and functionality. And we'll eventually get back to all the features that we used to have, but right now, weapons and aiming is kind of broken. So that's just part of the game, but it's a trade-off. So so I was going back and forth between this and Blender, and I'm getting more experience with this, but I think I was spending a little too much time. I was trying to get the weight painting for the mesh. I was testing out these animations in Blender to make sure that the weight painting was right from automatic, to make sure that, like, basic animations, you don't get a lot of bleed through. I mean, like, bleed through. This is like an underlayer bleeding through an overlayer, right? And that's the battle. It's like for animations, it's like one of the solutions is to simply remove underlying geometry. If you look back here, there's no back, so when she's crouching, you don't see a lot of bleed through from all this geometry underneath the coat. And if you can do that and get away with it, that's fine. The same thing with like the body mesh, like underneath the clothes, there is no body mesh. The other thing I did too, I made a separate outfit, so you can actually switch between this in Unity. So that's what I want to do. When you wake up, you're kind of like in your underwear with no clothes and stuff, and you kind of have to go and get, go and retrieve your stuff here. But like this is your starting. So now I can have multiple outfits, not just the one, and it's a good starting point. But again, yeah. So this one doesn't have. Yeah, it has more geometry, so it has a different body mesh for the outfit. But in cases where you do want to keep underlying, like if it's exposed, you do want to keep underlying mesh. You kind of have to go in there and kind of. I was getting into the trap where I was kind of really doing a lot of testing with weight paint just to get everything perfect. Like, nothing was good enough. Like if it bled through a little, I had to make sure there's like a complete solution. And just like I came to realize it's never gonna be, you have to rely on automatic weight painting for the majority, like, and then you can rely a little bit on manual touch-ups, so there's a lot of little touch-ups to make sure I get it 90% of the way there. But what was important is it didn't look, perfect in the Blender animations, but that it looks acceptable in the Unity animations when I plug it into Unity, right? So, and there was a lot of times where I'd export it to Unity and I'd screwed something up where I would test out the magic cloth for the hair again, and all of a sudden my weight painting was affecting the face and stuff. So I had to do a lot of little fixes and stuff to get it back to a good state. But now I got pretty much everything how it used to be, everything functional. So what I meant by, like, you want to make, and especially at a distance, like you're not, if there's a little bleed through, especially at a distance, you're not going to be seeing too much of that. It's not going to look like trash. What did look like trash is when I did the crouch. I was getting some major ugly bleed through, and this doesn't look very good either, but it has to hit to a certain degree. But yeah, it has to be a certain quality where it's just like there was a lot of geometry bleed through. So this is actually looking a lot better in my opinion. But there's always, it's always a work in progress to make sure it looks as best as it can. But yeah, just a lot of testing to make sure, and then testing with the cloth and making sure that things are looking good. But for the most part, yeah, it's looking pretty decent, I think, to an acceptable level. So I finally got the rework out of Blender, fixed all the obvious issues, and pretty much out of Blender again. And I got the, finally, got the base construction working again to where, I don't have to really make any fixes in Blender anymore. I'm pretty much out of there. Out of there for the time being, until next time, until I feel the need that I need to. I don't really know if I want to actually go back into Blender, add more geometry and meshes, because that means I'd have to reconstruct everything else on top of it, like stealth shaders, and it's just a lot of work. It's like it's like digging up the foundation of a house, just to change one pipe, So you got to ask yourself, is it really worth it after this? At this point, after this, if you want to do it again, it's not really conducive to easy changes. But hopefully this is the last time. I think I'd be satisfied with this look and the other outfit, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. At least I have an actual checklist, in case I have to do it again, because it's a process of actually rebuilding everything. So. So I got started at like Thursday. I was starting to work on the 180 turn animation. I was like, on to the next thing. So this Thursday, I spent on Thursday. When I first started working on this was an absolute nightmare. It just turned into like a situation kind of like the AI head tracking. And to where I got it to a state now where I'm pretty satisfied with it. But on Thursday, end of the day, it was like a day of defeat where it's just like somehow I went wrong. I went wrong somehow, and I don't know. A lot of times AI kind of leads you down the primrose path and tells you what you want to hear. And I was conversing with it, and it had me convinced that, you know, my Invector avatar and my rig was just not compatible with other animations that employ root motion. And I was looking at other tutorials and stuff, and it's like, in order to do something like this, it is essential that you apply root motion. Like, I had done some other things where I kind of did pseudo root motion, where I kind of took control during the animation process and manually moved the character, like waking up from the cryopod. So I kind of tried to do it for this as well, kind of do manual movement alongside the animation, and it was just a horrid mess. It was just like, I began to realize there is no way I will ever be able to match up the actual rotation. It's like a curve rotation, and it's just like, you need that root motion, period, end of story. And so it always happens where you kind of, I mean, it was so bad, I was like, there's no way I can implement this and put this in production. It's absolute trash, you know. It's like, but sleeping on it, thinking about it, waking up in the morning fresh, hitting it again from a different angle, I had a little light bulb moment where I was like, oh, I actually did I think I actually did a root motion animation once, you know. What was it for? Yeah, that's what it was. It was for it was for jumping over cover. Yeah, I had this cover, and, you know, jumping over the cover, it moves the character. It's like root motion. So using this as an example, I was like, okay, it must be possible to use root motion with my character controller. So that's what I did. I did a lot of testing and a lot of investigation. So over the next couple of days, it was just like, you know, absolute pure testing, you know, trial and error, building a system, you know, something as, how does this do this? Look at this, it actually goes into cover. It's like, what the heck is this? That's weird. But on Friday, it was actually I was actually able to get the root motion animation working, and it actually gave me confidence that I could actually make this work in some sense. Because it wasn't this, yeah, it was like this huge mess before. So the real ticket was actually working with, there's a little thing that was going on with Invector. You kind of have to add this little script to an animation in order to kind of use root motion. And so before I did that, I did, you know, so by following the example, I could actually add root motion animations now, which is important. So, and really important for a 180 turn degree, because you'll never be able to, it's much more difficult to do that without root motion. It's almost impossible to do it. And definitely, you definitely couldn't implement a system that was stable in order to do that. You have to use root motion. So I was able to figure that out, and then over the course of Friday, I had to iron out just a bunch of little stuff. You know, there was a bunch of stuff with Invector that was kind of causing it to kind of not really be smooth. Their system with, you know, they're, you know, doing a lot of you know, setting variables to 0, and it was a little bit rough, a little bit janky, but I was able to go in and test and iron it out to where it looks pretty darn smooth and it looks acceptable. And I'm satisfied with it. So by the end of the day, I had it actually working for the most part. But it was no easy job to do this 180 quick turn. Not easy at all. It was definitely a hard challenge. And then at the end of the day, I was just messing around. This should be a lot easier, I think, which is just the interaction of dodge. I just added one of these newer animations. And this should be fun, though. I kind of want to make it dependent. Kind of like if you know, depending on what angle you are, like if you do a quick turn and then you hit dodge, it'll kind of do a different jump animation, and a lot of different things. So next week I'm gonna be working on the dodge jump functionality. It's gonna be fun. But that is pretty much what I got accomplished this week. Nothing more to say about that, so we'll go ahead and leave it there, and I will see you later.